Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak dan Ibu yang terhormat. Welcome everyone to our third edition of the webinar of ADA webinars devoted to the COVID-19 crisis, to the topic. So today we'll be focusing on Indonesia. We'll be looking into some of the data points that we are collecting across all the different channels for ADA, and also we'll be sharing with you some of our thoughts, some of our ideas how to cope with the crisis, and also what's coming up, what's beyond the COVID-19 situation. So first of all, I would like to introduce my fellow colleagues today. So first of all, I'm Kirill, I'm a managing director of ADA in Indonesia. Saya sudah 5 tahun di Indonesia. Also today, we have two colleagues from ADA. We have two colleagues from ADA, Faraz, who is managing our acquisitions, and also Faradi, who is managing the country agency services in Indonesia. Also, we are joined by Aldo. Aldo is from our partner company from Facebook. So we are very eager to also to answer your questions. So during the course of the presentation, please really feel free to ask the questions. So there is a separate box Q&A, if you can see in the control panel. You can ask the questions. Okay, so sorry, just a bit of a technical glitch. The slides are back and forth. So what I will be talking about is, first of all, on the impact of COVID in Indonesia. Also, what are the possible mitigation strategies and how you can still continue to communicate to your clients and keep their interest. I will start actually with the a bit of an overview of what ADA is. So some of you are our current existing clients and you know a little bit already. Some of you are new to ADA. So we're actually a company that is focusing on the marketing solutions, analytic solutions, with the data at its core, data and technology, in particular, artificial intelligence. So we use this technology to make sense of the data, to analyze, to process, and to deliver insights to our clients. We are present in 9 markets. Indonesia is one of our biggest markets. And we actually have data scientists, we have in our teams consultants, creative people. So the whole range of talent that helps us to actually bring these valuable insights to our clients. Very briefly, our business lines, they include 4 major sectors, from business insights, where we help clients to provide them information, insights from all the data sources in the form of dashboards, reports, or consulting services, to digital marketing and creative, where we actually execute and develop digital strategy entirely from media planning, media and ad operations, to production and creative ad optimization. So all these services we provide to our clients. And finally, acquisitions is a quite a new and interesting development business, where we use an outcome-based business model, where clients pay per outcome, per lead, per actual paying customer. So also, because today we will be providing a lot of data, a lot of analytics, I will talk a little bit about our data assets. So we actually, across the region, we have 375 million consumer profiles that we track and trace through our own data management platform, Exact. We get this data from around 400,000 apps that we track on a permanent basis. And then also we match it against around 1 million points of interest, such as airports, cafes, restaurants, hotels, universities, schools, you name it. So from a whole range of different points. And also we scorch the internet, all the social media and video channels, YouTube, for any kind of insight. So what is happening out there? What actual consumers are doing on the web? So now, coming to the topic of our presentation. So COVID-19, there were so many already things said and published and printed. I thought I would just show a couple of pictures. And COVID has actually entered our life and changed it significantly. So we all saw this panic buying frenzy. We all saw the deserted cities and towns and even wild animals, empty subways, empty transportation, empty buses. So we implemented social distancing rules and face masks, all the preventive measures. So let's look into the data, how it actually has impacted our lives here in Indonesia. So first of all, the very first thing that happened is we stopped traveling. So if you see the hotel visits, and these are the actual footfall of consumers in major hotels in Jakarta. So in the very first weeks after the social distancing measures were implemented and the borders were locked, we saw a decline of more than 50% to the hotels. International travel, so in this case, from Indonesia to Malaysia, dwindled by 70%. Also, the travel within the country, not only to Bali or tourist destinations, but also to Jogja and Lombok, has also declined almost immediately after the crisis has started. What happened next also is we abandoned the cities. So we looked into the traffic and the footfall in the main business areas in Jakarta. And here, as an example, we took the Sudirman business area. It has become empty almost immediately after the social distancing measures. The very hardly hit industry was also the QSR, quick service restaurants, where the traffic footfall fell by more than 90%. It's really devastating, and many of them have turned into the delivery services. But it has, you can see in this graph that they have really lost almost entirely their customer base, the walk-in customers. What else has happened? Because we moved from the city to the comfort of our homes, you can see that the use of productivity apps has also increased over the period of time. And now most of us are in our houses and or apartments, and we are using those apps on a day-to-day basis, not only communication tools, but also all other tools that help us to manage documents and do it in an efficient way. So you can see also there are these drops, those are weekends, yeah, when customers and consumers use those apps less, yeah. And then another interesting observation, we look into the footfall into the hospitals. So we also looked in the hospitals that serve COVID-19 patients, and also to those that are kind of regular general admission hospitals. And what we notice also is that the footfall has fallen in both cases. So which means that it's not that we are stopped getting sick, it's just we stopped going to hospitals. Many of us are afraid, even if we have another condition, we are afraid to go to a doctor. So what happened is that we started using the medical apps and apps that help to get help us to get medical aid without leaving our homes and houses. At the same time, we have a bit more time that we can spare with our family and with ourselves. So those long wanted, desired six-pack, that now it has become closer, more available, right? So the use of the apps that are designed for the home workout, like the one that home workout, no equipment, or the six-pack in 30 days, there was a little drop in usage, probably because everyone was just so stressed about the situation. But later the usage has picked up and continues to grow. So meaning that a lot of consumers, they're actually using these apps at home for their workouts because they cannot go to the gyms. So now the question is, we saw it really has changed our lives already. But the main question that is bothering each and everyone, including myself, when is it actually going to end? Will our life be normal again, or will it be a new normal, a life that probably we have not experienced before? And how can we prepare for it, both personally, but also as brands, as marketers, and how can we communicate this to our clients? So here I would actually like to ask you a question. I have a poll, results of a poll that was conducted by McKinsey, but I wanted to compare actually with what you guys think. And now you will be you will be able to see the poll on your screen. Please answer one of, give the answer to the question. And what is your expectation on the recovery? Do you expect a quick recovery in on the second or the third quarter, or the recovery will be somewhere by the end of 2020, or the recovery will be in the next year, or maybe it will not happen at all in the next couple of years, and we are in the beginning of a large recession. So I'll give you a couple more seconds. Okay, probably. All right, roughly 65% voted. Please give your votes. We want to hear from you. All right, maybe 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right. Okay. So I think we have the results. I'll share with you. Please take a look. Okay. So the majority is actually expecting the recovery by the end of 2020, and then fairly even split is expecting it in the second or third quarter, so relatively quickly, and the same amount in the year 2021. So now let me show you what actually other business executives think. Okay, sorry. There is a. Okay, so first of all, what are the different options and scenarios? So depending on the number of factors, first of all, how well we can curb the outbreak, how well is our public health response, and also depending on how effective the government stimulus is and support that the government is given to the businesses. There are all these various outcomes. So the most positive is the so-called V curve, which is a really fast recovery, and the most undesired and the most pessimistic one is actually on the other end of the spectrum, is the recession. So then there are also somewhere in between the L curve, the U curve, which is also a recovery, but relatively, which will take relatively longer time, and also the W curve, where we'll face a bit longer road to recovery. Now, what the business executives around the world think is actually 59% of them, they're voting for the U curve or V curve, meaning that they expect a relatively fast recovery. And what is also encouraging is that even a larger percentage of executives in China, which the country which is a little bit ahead of Indonesia in fighting and containing the outbreak, so they are even more positive, they're more optimistic. So we believe that it is a good sign. So at least once the virus is contained, so we see a road to recovery. Now, regardless of how fast the recovery will happen, and we actually cannot predict it at this moment, we have a couple of principles that we would like to recommend, and that we would recommend all the marketeers and brand managers to stick to. So first of all, how you react to the crisis today, how you communicate to your clients, it will stay in their minds forever. Many of them are going through hardships. Just don't go dark. Still stay on the top of their mind, communicate. It doesn't have to be massive campaigns, but don't leave them alone. Second, also the restrictions that we have, all the limitations in our lives, they will be lifted eventually, but the habits will stay. So those habits that we pick up, especially using the new tools that we are forced to use, they will remain. And also, don't forget that we're all different. So we're also impacted by the crisis in different ways. And Faradi will talk more about it in his part, that you do not have to use the kind of one-size-fits-all communication and messaging, because we are all going through different kind of hardships. So this is a very good example which I wanted to share with you. Probably, I'm sure you saw all the kinds of communication related to COVID and the crisis. Why I like that ad? Because it's not talking about the product or how we are with you together or helping. It's really delivering a very important social message of the 20-second of the washing those hands through a very interesting combination of the peculiarity of this ad channel, which is YouTube. There is an unskippable ad which you cannot skip, And they combine it with the message that these are the 20 seconds of wash and that also you cannot skip. So I just thought it's a very creative idea and very interesting way to stay on the top of the mind of your consumers. Don't always try to force it. Don't always talk about the coronavirus. So here also we are showing that there was a spike. We are seeing there was a spike in search in social media conversations that are related to the virus. However, now it's kind of going down, and be aware just of this coronavirus fatigue. Just use it when it's appropriate, and don't forget that there are other things in life also that are still bothering and worrying our clients and consumers. So one of the examples is actually the discussions around the business sector. So we looked into the conversations on credit cards or online loans, because we thought that it probably should be something relevant during the crisis and those difficult times. And actually what we saw is that there was a spike in the conversations. So red, yellow, and green is marking whether they're negative, neutral, or positive. As you can see, a lot of them are actually negative or neutral. First of all, because yeah, there is a concern on how to repay the debt and actually how to get some help during these difficult times, but also because of the lack of the information. So just be aware of these conversations. They're happening and you can pick up on them. So also another interesting trend that we saw is that the surge, there was a surge in usage and in app install for the related applications during the same period of time. So we looked at Akulaku and Kredivo and Home Credit as examples, and we saw that there was an increase of around 29% and 60% respectively in the app install, which is the number of installed apps during this period. So it actually took them about half a year to get this number in 2019. So now it just happened over a month. And also for the traditional banks, their mobile apps, we did not see an increase in the app installs. However, we saw an increase in monthly active users. So this means that a lot of those clients and customers who probably were not actively using, so they started using it in March. So for example, in BCA, it's almost 2 million spike just within 1 month. Another change, or let's say another area where we saw an increase in app downloads was naturally for the medical apps, HaloDoc and HaloDoctor, so an increase in 77% and 43% respectively. And finally, the big winner is, any guesses maybe? I think you probably have guessed by now, 40 times increase for Zoom, the application that we're using at the moment, despite all the controversy around the security of the app. So, okay, yeah, Aldo. So 40 times increase, 7 million downloads just within 1 month. By the way, for Teams, which is a competing app from Microsoft, a competing application, they also saw an increase, but it was much smaller, only around 10 times. So there is an opportunity, definitely in these times. A lot of areas, a lot of businesses are also experiencing a surge, so not all are going through these difficult times. So to finish my presentation, I would once again like to remind you and that we are entering the month of Ramadan, and still a lot of Indonesians, a lot of people are going through difficult times, and not everyone is going, or not everyone is experiencing the lockdown in the same way. So many of them are still working, many of them still are out there and face the risk of the virus. Many of them are in the hospitals, or even if they're at home, they're going through difficult times without their daily or weekly incomes. So keep this in mind. Not everyone is the same. And with that thought, I would like to pass it to Faradi, who will elaborate and give you a bit more insight on how different people reacted to the crisis. Okay, Faradi, on to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Kirill, for the great number. I see a lot of questions asking where do we get the data. So today I'm going to talk about 3 things. First, about crisis persona and how is it going to change Ramadan and Lebaran during COVID-19. The second is with the current condition, what are the insight of things that we need to communicate to our consumer? And the third one, and I heard a lot of this coming from client, business partner, and everyone asking, so what should we do today? Is it, do we do awareness? Can we do something that is related to business impact? Now, just want to ask one question in a way. So, why do we fear the dark? And I think that's pretty, it's quite easy, right? Why do we fear the dark? Because we cannot see. A lot of things that we felt we know, and it's gone. So we need to adapt. So we are afraid of making mistake. So into that, we need lights. Tell us what are the signal, what are the right move that I can do, especially at this condition. So, and when you are in that phase, there's full transition phase. First, you feel shocked. For me, like the first day, we heard that the first 2 people in Indonesia that get COVID-19, the first reaction was go to the supermarket, right, and get the things necessary. And then after a week, then, oh, okay, so you start working from home, and then the next week you start adapting, this become your daily life, and then that become the new normal. So I think that is what's happening. So I think when we are doing this, so we keep asking, what is the new normal? So just want to have one quick poll with you guys about this question. So how has your behavior changed today? Is it you're working long hours now? You starting cooking, recipe that you never thought you can? Enjoy Netflix. Now you have a checklist of what series Netflix is and what you're asking recommendation from your friend, what to watch later on. Order online, like Kirill was mentioning, getting that 6-pack, or all the above, basically. Okay, so, right, let us know, what do you think? So, okay, I'm going to close in next 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. Interesting. So this is the result. Now, 46%, 23% of you stating that you are becoming more productive at home. And that is interesting because, when we see our audience, a lot of people say, yeah, they're at home. There's nothing that you can do. Well, actually, there's a lot of things. And I think 36% is all the above, which is, that is. So now if you have that behavior change, what about our consumer? So what we have done is, if you see on Kirill's presentation, basically, we have over 155 million of smartphone, basically, in our DMP. Well, so from this, we are able to see, and basically we basically slice and dice what is your personality based on your mobile phone consumption. So there are 3 things that we capture. The first one is your location. So this is some of the apps that know that you are working from home or at home, your mobility. The second one is actually your profile, your affluence level. Is it high? Is it mid? Is it low? The third one is your app usage. Now, app usage has a very broad definition. So then we dissect it again based on shopping apps, entertainment, travel, games, learning, and everything else. So let's talk about this adaptive shopper, okay? Adaptive shopper is people that have not in e-commerce app and now they're jumping in and has a high increase of usage on those applications. And then for the board homebody, this is people that in location, they are still at home. However, they're downloading a lot of entertainment apps. Now for the work from home professional, this is like, I assume you guys, right? So you still work at home, but then your productivity app is just go to the roof. And we also have the brave one. You know, like Kirill was mentioning before, things is different, you know, for everyone. The brave one, why we name it the brave one, because their app consumption is basically the same. However, their mobility, this is the one that goes out there, right? They don't stay at home. Now, social citizen is people that we see an increase in terms of app usage, in terms of communication, from social media, from news, everything has increased in terms of consumption. And the consumption increase is like huge, right? And we have the sad and confused people that we seen are working from home or, you know, well, they stay at one place home. However, their app usage has been decreasing. Now, at that current stage, then we start questioning what is happening, right? And from all of this, actually, we can customize and see what is the right communication for them and why is interested. For example, like the board homebody. Now we assume this is, we have roughly around 13 million of that profile in our database. And what they see right now, they're consuming a lot of online learning apps. We assume they're single and they browse a lot of, pasta, how to make pasta. So interesting fact is if you're single and you want to cook, the best one is pasta. For the adaptive shopper, for them, this is like your typical moms, right? This is like when your mom in social media, e-commerce, buying all the stuff. So roughly we have 1 million of those. For them, the most important part is start having this application, which is from Hypermart, all the e-commerce, Tokopedia, Bukalapak, and everything. Even we see an increase on IKEA apps. So somehow, because working from home is not a condition for everyone, you go to IKEA. This is not an endorse, by the way. This is just how we see it. But it's sad and confused. What we see is, although they are at home, but we see that they are much more outgoing. They want to go out there in a way. So for them, what is interesting is, for example, like Indonesia triathlon virtual reality series, where they can stay at home and participate in triathlon. I mean, can you imagine? So, and then the social citizen. So social citizen is the type of people that have high consumption of social media and news, but they are powerful in delivering good messaging, right? Because for them, good message need to be shared. And that is an opportunity because like if you create a good messaging, for example, like how Aqua then changed their factory into starting producing hand sanitizer and distribute it, that become a good thing and good thing meant to be shared, right? And you also have the Noon animation series. We also have the Brave one. Now, for people that go out there, the most important thing is they need confidence. They need confidence that people are actually caring for them. So which is when they create the APD, when they create the protection, that is something that is worthwhile for them. Now, we have many more in our database. We even see a spike in, intent for travel. Can you imagine that? So, but amongst all those, the most important thing is like for brand, what is the right communication, right? Because your current communication may not work because it's just not relevant anymore. Hence, I think, next day, Lusa, we're gonna have our first fasting season start in Indonesia, and I think fasting season for Indonesia itself is very important, right? Because that is the moment where it's inspiring, engaging, building our relation to our family and stuff. But what matters is today at COVID-19, that need, that belief that I need to, silaturahmi istilahnya is important, right? But now you are blocked geographically. So how do you solve that? How do you solve that as a communication? Well, what we see, there's three things that you need to look. First is you can repropose your brand asset and make it like more gratitude, more empathy, moderation, blessing, those kind of things. Second is you create content and then you break it down into short form, but make it in a way that it is based on behavior, location, and context. The third one is always use hygiene. So this kind of content is much more related and relevant for your customer. So, and I think for you out there that, because of COVID, you cannot produce and everything else. So there are tools out there that can help you actually slice and dice. And for example, like this is one thing that we have done from one long format, then we cut it and we put it with different persona targeting, different messaging. And the outcome of this is actually almost 200 short content. And we built this in less than 24 hours. So, and the third one. So when we talk about what should we need to do at this period, this pandemic, basically, as a campaign, should we just focus on awareness? But we see that there's a need to change of mindset. The first thing that you need to change is like, what is your business impact? And that is one thing that matters, right? Because today, I think like fans and everything else is irrelevant. The most important thing is for you to understand what is your business impact and how does your digital campaign actually deliver that. Next, it's about delivering, understanding what is the benchmark, how depth is the journey of that digital campaign, the volume, the risk assessment. Hence, then what is the cost per outcome that you need to calculate and ready to do. Now, I think for us, we have been lucky in having all this partner and BFSI and FinTech portfolio in Indonesia. So from this, sorry. Okay, sorry. There's a glitch there. Okay. So it's important to understand that because then you will focus on the most important thing, which is how to connect with analytic, tech, media, and creative. How do you focus on consumer acquisition, convergent marketing, sales, and expansive of product expertise in understanding what is like, is it card category, loan, life insurance, microfinance, saving account. Now, out of this, what I'm going to take, the summary is, first, I think, understand what can you do for your customer today? Because this is the moment where they need you, and there's a very high ROI on that, basically. And rely on data to give you actionable insight and understand consumer behavior and sentiment. And don't go dark. This is the moment when brand need to be out there and build that brand presence and always stay relevant to your customer. For all the creative material you have, just repurpose it, utilize it, and personalize your creative. And I think the last one is choose the best partner for you to be able to achieve what is your business outcome. And I think that's for me. So next, I'm gonna ask Aldo, my dear friend also, that's gonna talk about what would Facebook think on this condition.
Thank you, Faradi and Kirill, for the opportunity. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Aldo Rambie. I'm working for Facebook to lead the industry. So today I will share some of the insights that we have around our platform. So how Facebook responds to COVID-19 and how we see the consumer behavior change in the context of this pandemic, and maybe some tips that is helpful for the business. And of course, the tips itself will pretty much cover in terms of framework and some practical one as well. Some of them already addressed by Faradi previously. So let me start by talking about Facebook, right? In terms of Facebook response, number one, the most important part is, of course, taking care of the employee. In fact, I've been working from home for the past 5 weeks now to make sure that operation will still resume, but then from home. And second, the most important part is, of course, the user that we have in our platform. And some of the key initiative is actually making sure that user will have an accurate information through, for example, what you see here in the screen is our collaboration with WHO, a specific page where you can see all the information, and also is being adjusted to the local context with the information from the local government. Thirdly, the most important part as well, how we can help our partners, in this case will be the community, the businesses, big and small, and of course, government. One of the examples that I can share would be for Indonesia, would be the WhatsApp collaboration with Kominfo to ensure that people have the information and can ask directly to the WhatsApp chatbot. This is unique to Indonesia market and India. So that's something that we're very happy to be able to support people in this time of crisis. What about customer behavior? As a industry lead at Facebook, I've been meeting clients in the past 5 weeks. And of course, the question come in mind is, what is the top of mind and the behavior of customer? We've done a survey along with our partners as well. And we are seeing that, of course, in terms of behavior, consumer in Indonesia are considering alternative option for online shopping or home delivery. We do see 20% increase where people spend more time on online purchases in the past 2 weeks. Bear in mind, this is data based on March. And we can see that week on week, progressing number of time spent. And then, of course, the food delivery being ordered, they are becoming more often. And of course, by food delivery, it doesn't mean only like the food that is ready to eat, but it's also groceries, frozen food, and so on that we see picking up in the past 2 weeks. What about the usage in our platform? We have 3 main platforms in Indonesia: Facebook, Instagram, and also WhatsApp. We do see consistently in Indonesia, people who are already in our platform, they are browsing or spending more time, around 60% more than the usual. This has already happened for the past, I think, 4 or 5 weeks in Indonesia, actually March, that is already happening. And then the same with WhatsApp. Why is that? I think one of the key findings is, of course, the hardest thing that people give up in daily life will be social interaction, sense of safety, and be able just to have the opportunity to leave your home. And of course, with regards to the situation that we are experiencing, this will not, it's very hard for some of the people at least. So that's why we see a spike in terms of the usage to basically replace the social interaction. We do see total messaging has increased more than 50% over the last month. Group video calls through Messenger, through WhatsApp, that double globally week on week, and that also happened consistently, the same trend in Indonesia. More than 100 million messages have been sent by the WHO and government to people over the past just 1 week since its launch through WhatsApp. The first week since launching, Instagram, focusing on well-being, they launched the stay home sticker, and it has been used about 100 million times globally to basically encourage others express the way they are at home. So those are just the things that I can share in terms of the platform insight. But then what I gather from this is actually a sense of safety and social interaction are top of mind in our users. And how does this translate to the brands? So I think the key here is about the key here is about heightened awareness about their own safety, and that impact the way they see brand and services. So if you look here, we have 5 categories that is top of mind. Insurance, customer is basically thinking about health and well-being. That goes it's quite logical as well in this time of crisis. People want to have more assurance moving forward about their healthcare. Food and beverage is about safety, safe to use, safe to consume, and that the same apply to consumer goods as well, around personal care, health and wellness. Even banking products are about safety, safe to use, because there's an element of payment and so on. So these are the insight that we have based on the different businesses. And the top of mind from the customer, there are 2 main insights that we can share. Of course, people are looking for trusted brand to provide more transparency in their supply chain. And then this is related to the more safe to use team, right? Number 2 is about delivering the real value. By that, I mean, brands are expected to act responsibly, not just by the community, but also their employees. How they treat their employees is very important, because people do aware from social media, you can see what people are talking about. So those are the 2 main insights. One is about safe to use. Second is about delivering real value to the community, to the people, and to their employee. So we have some tips based on the discussion that we have, and also some insight that we have from our partners with regards to how to navigate in this time of crisis. There are 3 pillars: how to adapt your customer communication, basically how to react, reimagine marketing strategy, how to basically respond, and number 3 is about plan path to recovery. So having that view of recovery. So some of the tips about customer communication. Most of them are addressed by Faradi previously, but consumers are looking for a proactive communication from the brand now than ever, right? So that means you need to be more be authentic, focus on maintaining proactiveness and frequent contact with your customer. This goes to be that your organic presence within our platform, and then your basically your presence, if you have presence from our chat platform as well, basically to be more responsive and more proactive to provide updates. Setting a realistic expectation to customers is utmost important as well. They do realize and they do expect a disruption in services, such as if you're ordering from e-commerce, but they expect that to be communicated clearly when they are looking at the product. Most important here as well is to train your customer service team that deal with the customer day to day. I think it's, what we see is how you can build empathy as well in your towards the team. Of course, for your customer service, this is a new time that they also need to learn what are the tone, message, how frequent they need to, how fast they need to reply. Is very important. And then reflecting on the constant feedback from your customer. This will have a benefit as well to understand what might be the insight for your future product development. Next is about key principle of your marketing communication. The three things that we see consistently is about assurance, building the positive sentiment and confidence in customer. I do see that example from telco nowadays. The most recent one, if you look at IM3, they're launching this Ramadan campaign where they're promoting people to stay at home and be able to create together. I think that's pretty cool. There is an element of togetherness which goes well with our community in Indonesia. Assistant, providing timely support and alternative for customers. We do see this, for example, from Bluebird. They kind of like, pivot into concierge service as well. I mean, this kind of behavior will help as well in terms of helping the customers and building the top of mind. And of course, action, by bringing an experience from to customer in the platform. You can do a lot of things here by simply doing some, posting content about education, ask them to do live engagement for certain trainings. For example, I do see this a lot in properties, automotive as well, basically to just continue engage your customer in an authentic way. Lastly, is about having a view about the near-term recovery. There are three elements in this: marketing, brand, and value chain. When I talk to the customer on the marketing, the question will be, should I remove all the ads? Or which kind of objective should I prioritize? Are we focusing on brand awareness? Or are we focusing on acquisition? And of course, the focus will be different industry by industry. For example, if you're looking at insurance, right? Acquisition will make sense because of course there's a top of mind, but with the right tone. But on other extreme, if you're looking at automotive, although now is the time where a lot of auto are launching their new products, but then it's about brand awareness, showing empathy, right? There will probably be an impact on in terms of buying decision, but there can also be a delayed purchase that will come later on in the phase, right? So having that consideration is very important, and of course having the scenario to plan bounce back consumer consumption campaign. It might be Ramadan, it might be longer than that, but at least you have that scenario baked into your short-term plan. About the brand, adjusting communication message to the customer is very important. Building a reliable brand image, developing the message on how brand can help to heal the society and rebuild, and of course, trying to see whether there's an angle of home and health to create a new selling point to your customer. Building the positive image will win that customer support in the short and the medium term, medium run. And value chain here is about your operation. I think here's about there will be an possible increase in demand, and how you can cope from your supply side to be able to deliver to that. Lastly, is to be able to have a structural enhancement of long term, because we do see that after this, there will be a new normal. There will be a change in the lasting change in customer behavior. So the four elements are how you can focus on the digital marketing enhancement. So I think this is the right time to revisit your existing digital marketing strategy, your performance, and how you can take the learning and be able to build a solid ecosystem with partners alongside performance marketing, and then building an effective CRM going forward. Number two is about product range innovations. I think if you look closely here, and I think telco they are doing a good job to be able to monitor the new trend and how to adapt your product and offering in the short and the long run. Channel evolution, when we see the shift to digital, be that in the platform like Facebook or e-commerce, that means you need to manage your operation well as well, in terms of how you can cope up with the demand and supply. Lastly, is to have build a value chain resilience, where we take all the learnings that we have throughout this period and build a more robust supply chain. So with that, I would like to close my presentation with some of the key recommendations. Number one is about immediate response. How you react to this is all about customer communication, being proactive, focus on empathy. Short term is how you manage change management, is how you respond to this by adapting your marketing strategy. Thirdly, is about be able to have that long-term view when demand rebound and have that structural enhancement. So that means when the demand pick up, you'll be able to seize and make that long-term strategic adjustment into reality. Thank you very much. I hope this will be helpful, and I really appreciate the opportunity and happy to take all your questions.
Okay, thank you, Aldo, and thank you everyone for your attention. Actually, quite a lot of questions. So let me just pick the first one. A lot of questions are related to data and asking, is it data for Indonesia? Is it a global research? So first of all, we will share the presentation, and in most cases, the data was related to Indonesia. So we used several sources. So first and main source is our data management platform that I mentioned. So this 150 million records that Faradi has mentioned, those are the records that we have for Indonesia. So how, there is a question, is ADA buying the data? Yes, we do invest into data. We buy this data from the apps and the ad exchange platforms. There are around 200,000 apps that we track on a daily basis. And it's actually, without going much into details, every time you're using the app, there is an information that is exchanged between the app and the ad exchange. So there was also a question, is it telco data? So no, this is not telco data. This is data from any connection or communication sources. So in some cases, we also use the data from the survey. So in the case of perception by the business executives, that was a global survey. So that was not in Indonesia. And for Aldo, most of it were Indonesian numbers and some were for Asia. So we will get the copy of the deck, so you will see which data relates to which territory. Okay, so let me read another question. The question is, just a moment. So the question is, just a moment. Okay, so the question is how are the different industries are impacted? And you are saying that this is a new normal. Who are the winners and who are the losers, and what would you recommend to the winning and losing industry? So Faradi, maybe you can help to answer that.
Sure. So I think, as we know today, the worst is impacted is tourism, travel, you know, and there are some that is like success, which is like online application, e-commerce is booming and stuff like that. But that doesn't stay today, right? Because we don't know what is next. For you to be a winner or a loser, it's how you decide what's your pivot going to be at this moment of time, because you have seen and you have prepared, right? So how do you prepare on that? Because today consumers are changing, people are, for example, like, you know, even if you want to buy stuff, you don't need to go out now, and people are delivering it, whatever it is. You know, you can buy a dumbbell, you can buy everything online basically. So that has changed. So I think if you're talking what industry that will impact it, I think it depends on how they're going to transform themselves, especially at this time, and see what is the opportunity there. I think that's and whoever transforms the best will obviously be the winner.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Faradi. So I have another question also related to data and specifically to the banking industry. So what kind of data that banking can use for solving business issues in the financial segment? So for us, maybe can you help to cover that? What are the data points you use? What are the sources? How do you
Sure.
use it?
Sure. It's an interesting conversation on data, right? So data, there's always a starting point of when you look at what data. So the starting point is always what is the outcome that you want or discover from that data piece. So there has to be an actionable insight that leads to a particular outcome. So that's where you see what data do I need to come to a particular outcome. Now, the ideal starting point for the banking industry is what is the ideal customer? Who are you trying to get to? So I'll give you a very nice example. So let's take credit cards, for example. So credit cards has, and we look at particularly a traveler credit card that's specific to frequent travelers. Now, when we think about, okay, so I need to reach out to frequent travelers, when you do typical digital marketing, you look at guys searching for travel, you look at travel intent. So those are the sort of data point that you look at, search intent. But where we go a step further and what we do is we look at real world behavior and we look at online behavior. So like Kirill's mentioned, there's a lot of apps out there. People are using apps. We look at search intent. We look at people who are consuming a lot of apps relative to travel. But that's only their digital behavior. There's no way through that data point that you can tell if this guy is a frequent traveler, right? Now we go a step further because we work on device IDs and we look at mobile devices, as Faradi's mentioned. What if we could track, and this is what we actually do, people actually going to the airport. Now there are 3 types of people who actually go to the airports. One is taxi drivers, one is guys who are flying out, and one is guys who work there. Now we know people who are constantly going to the airport, flying out, coming back, they are put into a segment or data bucket of frequent travelers, right? So when you mash all these data points for your particular product, requiring a particular outcome, those are the data points that you need to look at in terms of defining those insights from a behavioral profile and who these guys are. So it has to be as rich as that. You can't take one data point as a search intent and target them potentially to get your credit card. You need to look at multitude of sources to actually reach out. So another financial industry example is, a lot of banks look at priority customers, or insurance looks at, for term insurance, they look at affluent customers. There is no way of finding a data point online or through apps that this person or this individual or this segment is affluent. Now, what if you could match that with real world behavior of where they stay, or have they been to BMW showrooms recently? So it defines a set level of affluency. Thus, these are the kind of data points that we use to come to an outcome. And answering your question on, look at what is the eventual outcome and what insights would lead to that, and thus discovering the data point.
So basically, it's a combination of your online and offline behavior. And maybe just to clarify for all the listeners, we do get information on the online behavior of consumers through the same information that apps exchange with the ad exchange platforms, right? Okay, thanks for us. So I have a question actually to Aldo. So the question is maybe 2 parts. So first of all, is there any tips for the communication on the Facebook platform during COVID time? So anything that you can recommend? I know you covered this a little bit in your presentation, but especially for those who have been heavily impacted, the industries that have been heavily impacted. And also there is a question on the CPM and in general, what would you recommend?
Sure.
So whether it has, some brands could utilize, because we saw some changes also in the cost per million. So what would you recommend the brands?
Yeah. So first, I think communication-wise, like I explained previously, how you can leverage. I think number 1 is about reacting to this, right? I think there's a sense of clarity that you need to put out, that you're operating to give assurance to your customer that you are still there. Number 2 is about making that adjustment on your marketing message. Basically, Ramadan is coming up. There are a lot of potential insight that you can use. People are not supposed to go home to their villages. And then Indonesia being a very highly strong community country, high sense of togetherness quite high. And how you can basically use that sense of togetherness while you're at home, relevant from your brand point of view. I mean, I keep on saying telco. I only see telco just past 2 days. I'm really impressed about their campaign. Basically, the whole production was done at home by the creators, and they made a very nice an asset out of it, which I believe will be out in the next few days. But if you want to see, they already posted in their page. It's IM3. I'm not promoting them. Basically, we manage all 5 telcos in Indonesia, but it's just one of the examples that I would like to point out. So use Lebaran momentum. That will be very good in terms of how you would respond, being more proactive. And then from there on, I think listen from the insight that you can get from the performance, the views, the comments, engagement, what you can learn out of it, and how you can adapt. That's it, Kirill. Number 2 is about CPM. Yes, CPM, overall, I can share to you macro level, there is of course a drop, because overall, I mean, I've been saying that the usage of our platform spiked, but then of course the ads revenue is going to be, or is already impacted. There will be an impact on this overall CPM. I cannot comment industry by industry, right? Because as you know, the way we are doing our optimization in our platform, it will differ how you are doing your campaign based on what objective. So, but overall macro, reduce. I cannot confirm the 25% though. You're on mute, Kirill. Kirill, you're still on mute.
Sorry, yeah, sorry guys. Thank
Yeah.
you, Aldo. Thank you for the very extensive answer. So maybe there are still quite a lot of questions coming in. I would recommend a lot of questions are coming actually on data. So how do we get these? I would suggest that please reach out to us. We're happy also to continue the conversation face to face to you, and please either in LinkedIn or you will have the contacts that we will send in the follow-up email in the presentation. So there are questions on partnership with Facebook or how do we get the data. So yes, we do partner with Facebook. However, this data that we have provided is based on our own data platform. And also there are maybe the last one I will ask. So a lot of questions also on Ramadan. So how would you, Faradi, maybe you could help to cover that. So how would the brands react, or probably most of the communications is already there, but main issue and thing that what tips could you give? What would be the good recommendation on both the channels, but also on the content and on the communication? Maybe also something on the data. So how to make use of all the data and the segments that you have presented during Ramadan times.
Okay, so I think first thing in consumer point of view, right? Because the mudik has already been officially banned, right? So, but then the need for mudik is still there. Why do you want to go mudik? Because you want to meet with your relative, right? Be there, silaturahmi, bermaaf-maafan, and that is a huge part of our culture. So that's a great insight. Now, from those point of view, from the data itself, it's actually we can see which is people that are, for example, like going or looking for prices, because like that need is going to be subsidized by giving something. Because, for example, there's someone that asked, I think in the question about should they have a campaign for fashion industry? Well, maybe there's going to be an increase, but not as personal consumption, but it's for gifting, because you cannot be there, but you want to be present there. So that's the way I see it. It's a great insight, and that's a great opportunity. So what kind of creative that you can create based on those insights is the trick, right? So that's one way. Like the other way is right now to twist it around in a way that by not going home, by not having the mudik, there's a lot of play there, because some family done this as a routine, but some actually miss their mudik campaign because they're too busy and stuff. Well, this is actually a great story for you to tie up, because now by not going for mudik is actually showing your love. And there are multiple examples of how you can play it around. Different industry, different specific, but again, like what we're mentioning, care about what your consumer is thinking and how is your brand or product become relevant for them. I think that's the way I'm going to answer it.
So yeah, so there is no specific kind of one size fits all solution,
Yeah.
right? It's really understanding what not even customers are experiencing, but breaking them down into the micro segments, right? And then
True.
tailoring the communication.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Faradi. I think we could probably continue answering for another hour or hour and a half, but we will unfortunately have to.
I think a day.
The webinar. Thank you very much once again.
I'd like to share to the people here. I'm going to add industry by industry best practice. later on to the team at ADA. I already answered some of the question there, but maybe it helps because I know that you're coming from a different industry, so I thought that to share that will be helpful. Thank you, everyone. I really enjoy all the questions. Thank you, Kirill,
Thanks, everyone.
Faraz.
Terima kasih.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aldo. Thank you, Faraz. Thank you, Kirill.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone.